Hello gorgeous! Here is an extensive guide to watch etiquette, timepiece movements, what it means to be handmade, why they can be so expensive, things to look for when investing, a style guide for ladies and gentlemen throughout the day and evening, how to store your watches. My name is Gia G. Dixon. I am an ILM certified etiquette consultant and the Royal Charter of King Charles III. Stay until the very end or else none of this will make sense. I'll also create a separate video on affordable luxury watches and their pros and cons. Subscribe and click the bell for that coming soon, along with more elegant style and high quality living. Here are the main watch movements, and I also want to thank Cold Fusion. Thank you so much for suggesting this video. When you see the word quartz, this means the timepiece is battery operated. This will be your standard watch, yet there are big names that will still charge $20,000 or more for an electrical current watch because of the brand name, or the make is of fine metals, or stones around the watch face, or time and service it uses to generate that piece. A lot of luxury watches take a year to make, so keep this in mind. Every watch has a tiny bit of gold inside in order for it to operate, but then some companies will charge more simply because its face is gold plated. At that price range, I would avoid quartz, but this is all preference. For example, a lot of men working in a technical field might need to see that second-hand tick because they need to time something precisely in a zone that a mobile phone or stopwatch might not be able to function or be accurate enough. Their job might entail testing something up to a quarter of a second with a distance of X many meters, where a lot of ladies simply use a watch as an accessory and do not need the second hand for their day-to-day operations or occupation, and they can don styles with only two hands and it functions as a piece of jewelry that happens to keep time. I'll get into that some more. I use my watch to tell the time in case I know I will not be taking out my phone and have a lot of plans that day. I need to be somewhere but do not want to be rude pulling out my mobile device and will discreetly look at my watch. Quartz means you have to replace the battery every 3 to 5, sometimes 8 years, depending on the brand. Solar powered quartz watches last for much longer, but they are for children. At a luxury price range, if you want your watch to function in a smooth wind, quartz watches will tick, and you can even hear them before you see them sometimes, especially if it's a large wall clock. Beautifully winding automatic watches also tick, but at a higher rate that is not immediately visible to the eye. If you look closely, you will see a lot of little ticks in automatic movement timepieces. Quartz are deemed to be more reliable than automatic movement because they are accurate within half a second, while automatic watches can be off by a few seconds. This can be dangerous. Automatic or self-winding watches have a collection of pieces put together inside that use your movement to create a power reserve, causing it to tick. You can sometimes see the components in the case backs of your watch if you have a model with such display, and you might read the description of a watch and it can say Japanese movement or Swiss movement. They are both automatics, but here's the difference specifically between these two. Swiss movements are held in high regard by many watchmakers and collectors for a multitude of reasons. ETA, or the place in Switzerland producing this is a consolidation of multiple entities. ETA mechanical pieces are for the most part manufactured with a little more flair than others. Decoration is a large part of Swiss mechanisms, from the way metals are cut to the color of the jewels. Every aesthetic detail is thought of during the design and build process. Swiss do usually still use hand assembly for some caliber models, which can affect the price of the movements. Japanese movements are manufactured slightly differently, mostly in an automated robotics line. This allows for a much lower degree of error than by eye alone. While not a huge amount of detailing is put into most Miyota, for example, Miyota movements, the slightly more raw look of the pure mechanical parts does appeal to a lot of people. Due to the nature of the assembly, the price of Japanese movement is often more accessible than Swiss, but this does in no way indicate lower quality. I can personally attest to this. Hundreds of years ago, every part of a watch was made by hand. Skilled artisans would carve out each component using watchmaking tools and hand-driven lathes. Then expert craftsmen would hand assemble these parts to create a timepiece. Today, many watches are still made partially by hand. Entirely handmade watches are almost unheard of. Crafting a watch solely by hand simply no longer serves the goals of most watch manufacturers or watch wearers. You want accuracy in a watch because watches that were off even in the slightest meant losing lives in a very famous train collision. CAD, CAM, or CNC technology has all but taken over how we design watches. A Swiss-made pocket watch from the 1800s would have been designed by a watchmaker who drafted his ideas onto paper. Watch fobs or fupa were inaccurate timepieces, but contemporary ones are much better. A Swiss-made wristwatch from 2021 was likely designed by a team of digital designers, watchmakers, engineers, and programmers. Using computer technology to design watches has led to a huge amount of innovation in mechanical movements. Modeling software and digital design tools have allowed brands to discover ways to make their watches more precise and compact. Such precise and smaller designed watches can be close to impossible to create by hand, which is why many parts are now made by programmers and engineers rather than watchmakers. Another reason machine-made parts have become so common is the newfound importance of the label in-house. Using more machines makes sense for a brand that's trying to create everything in-house, since it would take a village to hand make every part of a high-quality timepiece within a reasonable time frame. If a time brand wanted to handcraft every part of the watch, they would have to employ individual artisans that specialized in handcrafting sapphire crystals, watch faces, tourbillons, bezels, stainless steel bracelets, the gold components your watch needs to work, and dozens of other parts. What does it mean to be handmade in today's day and age? Many modern luxury watches are described as being handmade, but this descriptor rarely circumscribes the process. More often, it means that the watch was hand-assembled, hand-finished, or both. It's common for luxury watch brands to hand-assemble their watches either partially or fully. Examples of brands that hand-assemble at least part of their timepieces include Rolex, Omega, Seiko, Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, Breitling, Jaeger-LeCoultre, Longines, Vacheron Constantin, Breguet, IWC Schaffhausen, and Tag Heuer. Some of these watch brands, like Patek Philippe, hand-assemble every part of their watches. Others use machine assistance. For example, Rolex watches are largely hand-assembled, but a machine helps with alignment and pressure during assembly. Hard finishing is also common among high-end watch brands, so that it is fairly standard. At Rolex, watches receive an initial polish from a machine, but are hand-finished and polished afterward. With that said, some watch brands don't use machines during finishing. Case in point, Patek Philippe and Vacheron Constantin are both well known for their high quality of their traditional hand finishing techniques. What is an in-house movement? What does it mean? An in-house movement is a movement that the mechanism inside is produced by the brand itself rather than outsourced to another company. Historically, brands usually outsourced movements or the technical make of the inside, as it's the cheaper option. Brands would purchase movements from other labels who were already mass producing them in factories. Nowadays, more luxury brands are deciding to produce in-house movements. It's important to know these movements exist on a scale. Some are produced entirely in-house, whereas others are slightly less strict. There is also something called proprietary movements, which is when a brand outsources to another company, but that entity works only for that particular brand. This means all movements are tailor-made for that brand. Why? It means more control, higher accuracy, and better reputation. In-house movements generally sell better because of the prestige. Many luxury brands manufacture their movements themselves, including Rolex, Vacheron Constantin, Audemars Piguet, and Patek Philippe. Other luxury brands use prestigious manufacturers, including ETA. This is the most famous Swiss manufacturer consolidated of multiple companies. Swatch owns ETA, but has also provided movements for the high-end brands throughout history, including Omega, Breitling, Longines, Hamilton, Tissot, Prado, Panerai, Sin, Tag Heuer, and Oris. Miyota is a Japanese manufacturer that was founded by Citizen in 1959. It's used by Halios, Zeppelin, Helson, and Obris Morgan. Seiko is known for manufacturing some of the best movements out there. Many luxury brands use Seiko movements, including Breitling, Armida, some of Cartier, and Invicta. Whether a brand is made in-house or not depends on the company itself. There are family drama, politics, or certain periods where a purveyor is going through something. For instance, if a company breaks off into two, if a family owns it, i.e. John Lobb or Cartier, one brother will stick to traditional watchmaking, while the other tries new ideas with manufacturing that are seen to be with the times. Here are the pros and cons of in-house movements for brands. There are many benefits of in-house movements, both for the brand and consumer. Firstly, when brands opt for in-house manufacturing, there are no issues with supply, whereas with outsourcing, you need to rely on availability of manufacturers and movements. Finally, when brands manufacture in-house, they have the opportunity to sell movements to other brands and profit from it. The main drawback of in-house movements is that they are expensive and lots of money go into researching movements and eventually producing them. This is particularly costly if the brand's watches are unique and each one requires a completely different mechanism. Due to the high cost of producing the in-house movement, in-house watches tend to be more expensive, which is a drawback for consumers. When purchasing your timepiece, go to the actual flagship store if you can, rather than a department store or another company purveying the item if possible. Always go to a trusted name rather than a smaller shop or a location that that sells secondhand without a sturdy background in their authentication process. If you are looking for a brand, this is something to consider if you are new to brand name or luxury watches. Here, there will not only be more trust, but they can tell you in detail the history of the timepiece you might not have already known. Going to a more established brand will also provide a better watch than those companies who are new to the game. They can also take care of your watch if it needs polishing or fixing in the future. I personally would do it for this reason alone, and you get your safety guaranteed on your purchase, which is always wise to do. On top of that, the packaging is a little more substantial and the real deal. Make sure you know what you want. Take your time. If you are looking for a timepiece online and are thinking about saving for a big brand name watch, view it in person. I highly suggest this. You can visit the store multiple times if you need to. I highly recommend trying it on for tangible reference. This way you can really picture yourself in your day-to-day with the weight on your wrist. For those of you lovely individuals who have been following me for a while now, thank you. You already know I sometimes keep items in my online cart for months to go through the seasons to see if I still want it. It does not hurt to do a bit of research. Do not be shy to ask the experts at the store about the watch. Sometimes I'll go to a retailer and realize I know a bit more about the product I want to purchase than the person trying to sell it to me. Keep asking until you find the answer. Read online, get to know its heritage so you feel closer to it, or even to realize this big purchase is not for you. You are the one paying for it after all. I would want to know what I'm buying. You want to know if this is a piece you can wear forever and pass down, or if this is a trendy piece of fashion for the moment. Trust your instincts in knowing what works for you in your lifestyle. Nobody else can tell you this. Don't let anyone pressure you. When timepiece shopping, you might see a watch that looks exactly the same as another watch, but one is way more expensive. Say the original is 90,000 while the other is 300,000. That might be an anniversary edition of an original make. These can be up to 30% more because only a limited amount is available and are with rarer features with sapphires, unique gemstones, or white gold plating added. If you are looking for a serious heirloom, you should be paying attention to mechanical watches. If you're looking for 1 or 2 collectible digital watches, they should be confined to the gym and working out. A watch is never just about telling time if you are looking for a piece to start a collection or simply owning one good watch. Buying into a brand and indulging in the luxury usually has something to do with you relating to its heritage. This will reflect in the watch itself and on your personality. I'll use clothes as an example. Chanel is known for boxy jackets. I cannot wear boxy jackets. I can wear their more curved pieces that flatter the figure better, but when it comes to their staple, what they are known for, I have to avoid it because it doesn't suit my style. It doesn't look really good on me, so I probably should avoid this, and I do. When it comes to watches, for example, I'm about to go to flight school. I love the Breitling Navitimer with the chronograph, but my wrist is small where the 35mm suits me better. That's too compact to have a chronograph for pilots, but my husband, who's a pilot, says I will not need GMT or prime meridian information because flying privately on a smaller plane will be a short distance. It would simply be a flash to have a chronograph. Just because it's a pilot's watch does not mean only pilots have to own it. Sometimes people just like the way things look, and that's perfectly fine. I also love the Jaeger LeCoultre Reverso, as I'm in the horse capital of the world. Polo Club is right there, and we are building a stable soon, and you can turn the timepiece around so it does not shatter when playing polo, which I think is awesome in preserving your timepiece. A watch is very personal and says a lot about your taste and who you are. If you are obsessed with a more luxurious timepiece that represents you in every way, you are better off going out with a bare wrist than one you do not fully appreciate. In the same vein as clothes, shoes, bags, furniture, and everything else, save up, take your time because it's worth it. Investing in watches can be lucrative, yet there are no guarantees. The big name watch brands are often the safest place to put your money, as their lengthy history would suggest that they will continue to be desirable enough to hold their value. As with most collections, rare is good. Be sure to take care of your watches when doing this because sometimes something will have a brand name, but its condition can immediately plummet or only keep its current value. Nothing is wrong with the latter. This is like purchasing a rare car. You can fix it, but a person willing to purchase something of high value is going to look for reasons to negotiate down anyway, and is less likely to want to put up more money into fixing it if it's supposed to be high value. Watches have to start out being high value in order to keep their value. In other words, if it's already expensive, it's most likely going to stay that way. But if it was on the cheaper side to begin with, it usually would go down in price. Unless something really rare happens where all of a sudden it comes back into fashion, but this is very rare. Fashion watches are far more hit and miss, as what is in fashion today may never be in fashion again. For instance, what was good in the 80s may have been brought back. Not every single aspect of the 80s fashion is appreciated, only some highlighted elements. This is where you will find price does not necessarily reflect quality, it's just that the market is currently asking for this particular style. With that in mind, never buy something that you may dislike solely because you think it may be valuable in the future. If its value plummets, you can at least get some wear from a watch you genuinely like. I know someone who collects art. He has zero background in art history or creating pieces himself. Some works he collects are for the value of an up-and-coming artist to gain capital return, but other pieces are simply because he likes looking at them. He likes the color blue. Collecting timepieces does not have to feel like a serious obligation of expertise. Simply stick to what works for you at the end of the day. Now for the watch style guide and appropriate dressing etiquette. If you stick to these guidelines, you will be golden. A watch is one of those items you wear forever. It also is something you wear most of your life when you have one. You can change your outfit, but you might still wear the same watch if you have a good one. In other words, you'll definitely get your money's worth if you are saving for a more extravagant timepiece. As long as you can afford it and or it fits your lifestyle, or perhaps you're interested in the heritage it comes with, or it was handed down to you, it is perfectly admissible in court to appreciate something beautiful and complicated. As long as you understand the rules first, you can break them within reason. If you are planning to only have one good watch for your lifetime and not replace it, it is better to own something smart. You can dress down a watch, but it is hard to dress it up. For example, you can wear a polo shirt with a gold watch, but wearing a lounge suit with a casual watch does not look right, and it's not appropriate. You will stick out in a negative way. If you are not entirely certain on what a lounge suit is, I'll have a video linked below on dress code etiquette from most formal to casual. You can view after this. And keep in mind, brown before 6 p.m. and black after 6 p.m. To be on the safe side, simply purchase a watch with a formal black leather strap. You can wear this with a dress or suit in the day and go to a black tie event in the evening. If you cannot afford multiple watches, remember you can always invest in a sundry of straps and it will change the feel of your entire watch and ensemble. Have fun with dressing it up, because otherwise, what is the point if you do not enjoy yourself? You can wear silver, platinum, gold, or any type of alloy watch in the day, but consider the activity you're doing. It's best to wear a muted watch with a simple strap that is leather with a lounge suit. Never purchase something with big numbers and a big watch face to keep it elegant. These are only for technical industries. For instance, if you are a triathlon runner, you probably want to look down at your watch swiftly and then look back up to focus on where you're headed. For safety reasons, you want to make sure the face is not over your wrist size. Face sizes can be outrageous these days. You do not want your watch to be the statement. You are the statement, and you are an entire package with a ton of little details. Not the watch or anything you are wearing alone does all the talking. Match your watch to your outfit. If you are wearing a dinner jacket, you do not want something huge or overtly noticeable on your wrist. Always wear the watch on your left wrist. My husband's dominant hand is his left, and said the only reason you would not want to have a watch on your right is it can affect writing. However, Mr. Dixon said he never experienced that issue. There should be none. The buttons on your watch are made for your right hand to adjust the dials. It will be uncomfortable to wear this on your right if you are left-handed, because buttons will press into your skin as you move your right arm, and it is simply a matter of ergonomics. The more formal you want to be, the less noticeable your watch should be. The same goes for any type of fashion and style appropriate for formal events. If you notice, men's evening shoes for white tie and black tie are sleeker than average, where casual shoes are dressed with embellishments. The more embellishments, the more casual. The same applies to dress shirts. A timepiece is something not immediately noticeable in general. You are to never look at your watch when in conversation with someone. This is the equivalent of yawning or sighing at them. The only time it is okay is if you preface your encounter with letting someone know in advance you have somewhere to be, or if they share how tight their schedule is in that instant. This brings me to ladies' formal watches. Us ladies sometimes long for a bit more varying style and standing out where a gentleman would not. A gentleman to dally in inappropriate dressing showcases he is uninformed. I'm referencing how men in black tie or dressed up at all look uniform. Where any mistakes are made, others realize this individual might stand out negatively. Ladies have more ability to be flexible in regards to expressing our style through watches as more of a fine work of jewelry as opposed to other industrial designs for utility. In the same manner, we have more bags, shoes, and accessories. For evening occasions, we want our watches to not look like watches and more of a bracelet. This way, others do not recognize us as looking at our watch for the time, but can be more discreet. An extreme example would be the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's coronation watch. That's a watch fit for a queen. Pocket watches or watch fobs are fine as an affectation, but you need a big, intentional personality to pull them off. You might look like you are doing too much if you do not have the natural charisma that goes with owning one. If you have a lot of time to dress one up and move gracefully with it, then it is for you. And not a lot of men outside the UK don the waistcoat nowadays, since this is more for the modern Beau Brummels. I personally love watch fobs. You can get what would normally be a $300,000 Patek Philippe for around the $5,000 mark on First Dibs, linked below, in watch fob form. And there are also many vintage Tiffany pieces. It can be off a couple minutes. They're more for style than accuracy. Watches named after film stars and explorers are for a reason. There is nothing wrong with feeling like Steve McQueen when you slip yours on. Diamonds are a girl's best friend, not a man's. And finally, here is how to properly store your watch. If you have paid 4 or 5 figures or more for your watch, or inherited it from a loved one, this is most likely to be one of your most valuable possessions, if not priceless. Look after it and do not just fling it into a drawer. I would scream. Watches require very special care. A perpetual calendar to demonstrate will tell the day, month, year, and moon phases for years to come. This requires a great deal of attention, as resetting them, if not worn for a week. Fiddling with this would be time consuming. It's a good idea to carefully store such watches in a watch winding box or have one built into your home closet. There is no point in having a moon-faced indicator that is inaccurate because of the incorrect storage. If you paid $100,000 for your watch, you can definitely pay for an automatic winder. The cost will save you inordinate time and the stress of complication. Getting your watches serviced regularly is imperative. It's normally adequate to take them once every 3 years so that moving parts are lubricated, seals can be replaced, and the balance wheel can be checked. This can be costly, especially the more your watch costs. My father-in-law gets his timepiece polished and checked for about $500 USD. I see mountains of what used to be incredible classic watches that would have kept their value if only they were serviced. However, they're being sold for their original price only to be in horrifying condition. Do not be one of these individuals. If you are likely to swim in a watch, you should get its seals checked once a year. If water gets inside your mechanism, you'll be facing a hefty bill. If you are going to start collecting watches, then a secure safe is a vital investment. Make sure that they are covered by your insurance policy. If you have anything to add, let everyone know in the comments below, as opposed to saying you already knew this. It helps others and supports your claims. Etiquette is always about including and considering everyone. This simply confirms the information you have is validated and are headed in the right direction. In addition, remember that etiquette is situational and changes with the light due to the time and place. Treat others as they wish to be treated. Give this a like, it's 100% free. Subscribe for more high quality living and elegant style. If you want to stay in touch, there is a newsletter linked below you can sign up to. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.